In conclusion, the journey of empowerment through separation is one of profound self-discovery and growth. It teaches us that true strength comes not from remaining tethered to the familiar, but from having the courage to release what no longer serves us. Whether it's separating from toxic relationships, outdated beliefs, or situations that hinder our progress, this act of letting go opens the door to a life that is more aligned with our true self. It is through this separation that we rediscover our inner power, learn to trust ourselves, and gain the clarity needed to make decisions that reflect our deepest values and desires. The path may be challenging at times, but it is also deeply rewarding as it leads us toward a future where we are free to live authentically and with purpose. Ultimately, empowerment through separation is about taking responsibility for our lives, embracing change, and trusting that in every ending, there's the potential for a new beginning. Life is a vast dynamic landscape, and along the way we meet countless people. Some are meant to stay, while others serve their purpose only for a time. If you find yourself at a crossroads, questioning whether you must step away from someone, understand that life has a remarkable way of guiding you toward what is truly best for you. The universe does not conspire against you, but rather, it helps you become the person you are destined to be. First, recognize that self-awareness is the key. Every interaction, every moment of connection, brings you closer to understanding your true self. The people around you, whether they offer comfort or challenge, mirror parts of you that you may not yet fully know. Embrace this as an opportunity for growth. There will be times when you sense the need for change, an uncomfortable urge to move forward, to break away. And this is where life's wisdom often shines. Change is not a punishment, but an invitation to evolve. Relationships, like seasons, have their cycles. And just as we outgrow old clothes, we sometimes outgrow old relationships. You may also begin to feel the presence of your shadow, those parts of you that you've neglected or rejected. They might emerge through the dynamics with others, showing you the aspects of yourself that need attention. By stepping away, you allow yourself the space to face and understand these hidden parts, integrating them into your conscious life. In these moments of solitude, you are on a journey toward individuation, the process of becoming whole. It is in our quiet moments, far from distractions, that we truly discover who we are. These moments of separation, though painful, are necessary for our transformation. They allow us to reconnect with our core and realign with our purpose. Be mindful of the patterns that emerge in your life. Life will show you signs, subtle and unmistakable, that hint at when it's time to let go. Sometimes these signs appear in patterns of behavior that no longer serve you, or in feelings of discomfort that speak to deeper truths. When these patterns emerge, trust that they are part of the natural flow guiding you toward your highest good. Listen closely to your intuition. It is your inner guide. Often, we know deep down what is best for us, but we hesitate to follow that truth because it challenges our comfort zone. The wisdom you seek is already within you. The clarity you need comes from that still, quiet voice that calls you forward. Finally, know that empowerment often comes through separation. It's in the space you create away from others that you can rediscover your own power. So, in moments of solitude, we find the strength to heal, to grow, and to take full ownership of our path. While leaving behind a relationship may feel like a loss, it is, in fact, a step toward reclaiming your own life and direction. So when life shows you it's time to step away, remember that this is not the end but rather the beginning of a new chapter, one where you can build a deeper connection with your truest self. The process of walking away is ultimately an act of love for yourself. Trust it, embrace it, and let it guide you to the person you are meant to be. Self-awareness is a profound and essential aspect of human existence, and its importance cannot be overstated. It is the cornerstone of personal growth, emotional intelligence, and overall well-being. To be self-aware is to have an intimate understanding of one's own mind, actions, thoughts, and feelings, and it involves continuously reflecting on how one's inner world influences their interactions with the outer world. It is more than just knowing what you like or dislike. It involves an exploration of deeper layers of the psyche and recognizing the various forces, both conscious and unconscious, that shape your identity. At its core, self-awareness requires a kind of self-reflection that goes beyond surface-level understanding. It calls for the courage to look inward and acknowledge both your strengths and weaknesses. Many people go through life without fully understanding the reasons behind their reactions, decisions, and behaviors. For instance, why do we get frustrated in certain situations, or why do we feel uneasy around specific people? These responses often have deeper roots, buried in past experiences, unresolved emotions, or ingrained beliefs that we might not be fully conscious of. Self-awareness involves peeling back the layers of these responses and understanding the triggers that bring them to the surface. One of the fundamental aspects of self-awareness is the recognition of your thoughts and emotions as they arise. Most people are not fully conscious of the constant flow of thoughts that run through their mind. We tend to react automatically to situations, often driven by ingrained habits and mental patterns, without ever pausing to observe why we think the way we do. Self-awareness requires an individual to become an observer of their thoughts. This is not about being judgmental or critical of oneself, but rather about noticing patterns, both positive and negative, that shape one's experience. For example, when you feel a sense of irritation or anger, do you pause to explore what triggered those feelings? Was it the actions of someone else, or is there something within you that feels threatened or misunderstood? By identifying the root cause of your emotions, you can begin to manage them more effectively and respond with greater wisdom. Equally important is the understanding of your behaviors and how they align with your thoughts and values. For example, you might say that honesty is a core value, yet you may find yourself withholding the truth in certain situations, either to avoid conflict or protect yourself. These discrepancies between values and behavior can create inner tension and confusion, which diminishes self-awareness. Being truly self-aware means recognizing these gaps and making conscious efforts to bring your actions in line with your core values. It involves examining whether your behaviors reflect who you want to be, and whether they align with your true self or are merely the result of social conditioning, fear, or insecurity. Another dimension of self-awareness involves understanding your emotional patterns and the stories you tell yourself about your life. Many individuals are trapped in repetitive emotional cycles such as anxiety, guilt, or sadness, because they are not fully aware of the underlying emotional drivers. These emotions often stem from unconscious beliefs that we carry about ourselves, others, or the world around us. For example, if you constantly feel unworthy of success or love, it may stem from early childhood experiences or societal influences that shape these beliefs. Self-awareness requires bringing these beliefs into the light and questioning their validity. Once these emotions and beliefs are recognized, it becomes possible to challenge and reframe them, thereby fostering a healthier emotional state. Being self-aware also requires a deep understanding of your needs and desires, both in terms of personal fulfillment and relationships with others. Without this awareness, it is easy to lose yourself in the expectations and demands of others. For instance, you might find yourself agreeing to things you don't truly want or neglecting your own needs to please those around you. This can lead to feelings of resentment and dissatisfaction. Self-awareness encourages you to recognize what you need for your well-being, whether it's time alone, social connection, personal growth, or creative expression, and make choices that align with those needs. It involves cultivating the ability to set boundaries, communicate your desires, and prioritize your well-being without guilt. Equally crucial is the awareness of how you affect those around you. Self-awareness is not limited to understanding your own internal landscape. It also involves being attuned to how your words, actions, and energy impact others. This is the foundation of empathy and emotional intelligence. When you are aware of how your behavior affects others, you are better able to build deeper, more authentic relationships. Whether it's being mindful of how you communicate or recognizing when you may be unintentionally harming someone, self-awareness helps you navigate the complexities of human interactions with greater care and intention. Lastly, self-awareness fosters a sense of personal empowerment. When you understand the underlying reasons for your actions and emotions, you gain a sense of control over your life. Rather than being at the mercy of external circumstances or unconscious drives, you can make intentional choices that lead you toward growth and fulfillment. This self-empowerment is key to overcoming obstacles and achieving personal goals, as it enables you to recognize what truly matters to you and take proactive steps toward it. The journey of self-awareness is a lifelong process. It is not something that can be achieved overnight, nor is it a destination but a continuous unfolding. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to embrace both your light and your shadow. However, the rewards of being self-aware are profound. It brings clarity, peace, and a deeper connection to your authentic self. It is through this awareness that we can begin to navigate the complexities of life with grace and wisdom, making decisions that align with our true purpose. Growth and change are fundamental aspects of the human experience, and they are intricately tied to the way we evolve and adapt over time. Every person, regardless of age, background, or circumstance, is on a continuous journey of transformation. Growth isn't merely about physical change or achieving external success. It is an internal process that touches every aspect of our being, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It is about shedding old layers, breaking free from limiting beliefs, and moving toward a deeper understanding of oneself and the world. This constant state of flux is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. From the moment we are born, growth is inevitable. However, the kind of growth that leads to true fulfillment requires more than just time passing or external events unfolding. It requires intentionality and the willingness to face discomfort, challenge, and sometimes even suffering. It is through these very challenges that we often experience the greatest growth. Without hardship, there would be no opportunity to test our resilience or discover hidden strength. Growth often occurs when we confront obstacles that force us to expand our limits, rethink our beliefs, and discover new capacities within ourselves. These periods of struggle are not setbacks, they are invitations to evolve, but growth does not happen automatically or without effort. It demands a level of awareness and self-reflection. It's easy to stay comfortable in the familiar, to cling to what is known because it feels safe and predictable. Yet, if we are to grow, we must be willing to step into the unknown, to release the grip on old ways of thinking, and to trust that the discomfort of change will ultimately lead to greater clarity and understanding. It is in these moments of uncertainty that we often experience the most profound shifts in perspective. When we are forced to change, it forces us to question our assumptions about who we are, what we value, and what we want from life. Change, in its essence, is a process of shedding old skins, much like a snake or a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. Each stage of change presents its own set of challenges, and it is not always an easy or linear journey. Sometimes the changes we experience are small and incremental, and sometimes they are seismic, altering the very foundation of our being. Regardless of the scale, change is about movement, an ongoing process that invites us to step into new possibilities and embrace the unknown. It is a dynamic force that propels us forward, urging us to evolve beyond the limits we once believed we had. One of the key elements in growth is the recognition that change is not an event, but a process. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. We cannot rush the unfolding of our growth. It happens in its own time and in its own way. Much like planting a seed and waiting for it to sprout, growth requires patience and nurturing. We may not always see immediate results, but each day spent in conscious effort moves us closer to the person we are becoming. It is crucial to recognize that not every day will feel like a breakthrough, but each small step forward is an important part of the larger process. Another aspect of growth is the way it challenges our sense of identity. We are constantly evolving, and as we do, our understanding of ourselves must shift as well. We may outgrow certain relationships, hobbies, or belief systems that no longer align with who we are becoming. Letting go of what no longer serves us can be painful, but it is an essential part of the transformation process. Growth requires us to make space for new experiences, new knowledge, and new people. And sometimes that means releasing old patterns or attachments that we have clung to out of fear or familiarity. In order to continue growing, we must be willing to let go of what holds us back, even if it is something we once believed defined us. This willingness to change also involves vulnerability. To grow, we must be open to the possibility that we don't have all the answers, that we might not know exactly where the path will lead. Vulnerability requires a deep trust in ourselves and in life itself. It requires the humility to accept that growth often happens in ways that we cannot predict or control. This trust is an act of courage, because it means embracing the unknown with faith that we will be able to navigate whatever comes our way. It is only through vulnerability that we can let down our defenses and open ourselves to true transformation. The relationship between growth and change is also intertwined with our ability to adapt. Life does not always unfold according to plan, and sometimes growth comes through unexpected detours or challenges. It is our ability to adapt to these changes that determines whether we grow or stagnate. Adaptability is an essential skill in a world that is constantly shifting. Those who are open to adapting, to changing their approach when necessary, are the ones who continue to grow and thrive. Those who resist change, who cling to the past and refuse to adjust, often find themselves stuck in cycles of frustration and dissatisfaction. In the process of growth, we also begin to understand the concept of balance. Growth is not about pushing forward relentlessly, nor is it about remaining stagnant. It is about finding harmony between effort and ease, doing the work required to evolve while also allowing space for rest and reflection. As we grow, we learn that true progress is not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about becoming more present, more aware, and more connected to the present moment. Growth teaches us that sometimes the most powerful form of change is not in what we do, but in how we choose to perceive and respond to the world around us. And as we continue on this path of growth and change, we come to realize that life itself is a continuous journey. There is no final destination where we can say we have arrived. The process of becoming, of evolving, is never complete. It is an ongoing dance, one that invites us to explore, expand, and transform continually. The key lies in embracing the ebb and flow of life with openness and curiosity, knowing that each moment offers the potential for new growth, and each challenge provides an opportunity to change. It is through this journey that we ultimately discover the true depth of who we are and the boundless possibilities of who we can become. The concept of the shadow is one of the most profound and challenging aspects of the human psyche. It refers to the parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or avoid, often because they are uncomfortable or socially unacceptable. The shadow includes all the qualities, emotions, desires, and traits that we refuse to acknowledge or integrate into our conscious identity. These might include aspects such as anger, jealousy, fear, or even positive traits like creativity or assertiveness that we may have been taught to suppress. However, the shadow is not inherently negative. It is simply the part of ourselves that has been neglected or misunderstood. It is essential to understand that the shadow is not just about the darker side of our nature, but also the aspects of ourselves that, if fully embraced, could bring more richness and wholeness to our lives. The shadow is often formed in early childhood when we begin to internalize societal rules and expectations. As children, we are taught what is acceptable and what is not. Over time, we learn to conform to these expectations in order to gain approval and avoid criticism. The qualities that are not valued or that might bring disapproval, whether they are anger, vulnerability, or even traits like boldness, are pushed into the unconscious. These traits do not simply vanish. They accumulate in the shadow, influencing our behavior in ways we might not be aware of. Because these traits are suppressed, they often manifest in indirect ways, such as through projection onto others. We may judge or criticize others for behaviors that we ourselves repress, not realizing that we are projecting our own shadow onto them. The shadow also manifests through our emotional reactions. Often, the emotions we experience in extreme or disproportionate ways, such as intense anger or overwhelming fear, are linked to unacknowledged aspects of ourselves. When something triggers a strong reaction within us, it is often because it touches upon an aspect of our shadow that we have not yet fully integrated. For example, if we feel intensely jealous of someone's success, it may be because we have suppressed our own ambitions or feel unworthy of success. Instead of acknowledging these feelings within ourselves, we may direct our attention outward and project them onto others, seeing their success as a threat to our own sense of self-worth. In this way, the shadow operates as an unconscious force that shapes our perceptions and interactions with the world. The process of integrating the shadow, often referred to as shadow work, involves bringing these unconscious aspects of ourselves into awareness. It requires courage and honesty to face the parts of ourselves that we have long avoided. Shadow work is not about eliminating or repressing these parts, but about acknowledging and embracing them. By doing so, we become more whole and authentic individuals. When we begin to accept the parts of ourselves that we have been hiding, we find that they no longer have the same power over us. Instead of being driven by unconscious forces, we begin to act with greater awareness and choice. The shadow is not something to be feared or eradicated. It is an essential part of our psyche that, when acknowledged, can lead to profound transformation. However, integrating the shadow is not a simple process. It requires a willingness to confront the parts of ourselves that we have avoided for a long time. It can be painful and uncomfortable to admit that we have been holding on to negative emotions, destructive patterns, or hidden desires. Yet it is through this discomfort that growth occurs. By looking into the shadow, we begin to understand the deeper layers of our personality and motivations. We come to see how our past experiences, societal conditioning, and unconscious beliefs have shaped the way we view ourselves and the world. The more we engage in this process, the more we can release old patterns and make room for new, healthier ways of thinking and behaving. The shadow is also closely tied to the idea of projection. Projection occurs when we attribute our own unwanted traits or emotions to others, rather than recognizing them within ourselves. This is a defense mechanism that allows us to avoid facing the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable. For example, someone who has suppressed their own anger may become very sensitive to anger in others, seeing it as threatening or unacceptable. By projecting this anger onto others, they avoid the discomfort of facing their own repressed emotions. Shadow work involves recognizing these projections and understanding that they are reflections of our own unconscious material. When we stop projecting, we can see others more clearly and interact with them in a more authentic and compassionate way. A key aspect of shadow integration is also understanding that the shadow contains valuable potential. Often, the qualities that we repress are those that hold great creative or personal power. For example, someone who has suppressed their anger might discover that, when properly channeled, anger can be a powerful force for personal empowerment and boundary setting. Similarly, someone who has repressed their need for affection might realize that embracing this need allows them to experience deeper and more fulfilling relationships. By integrating the shadow, we tap into a greater sense of vitality and authenticity. What was once seen as negative or undesirable can become a source of strength, creativity, and personal growth. The shadow's role in personal development is crucial, as it often holds the key to our deepest fears and desires. When we deny or ignore the shadow, we miss the opportunity to connect with our full potential. However, by facing it and allowing ourselves to grow through the process of integration, we become more whole and balanced. The shadow is not an enemy but an ally in the journey of self-discovery. It provides us with the tools to move beyond the limitations we have placed on ourselves and open the door to greater self-expression and freedom. In embracing the shadow, we ultimately create a space for greater self-understanding and growth. As we confront the hidden aspects of our personality and bring them into the light, we gain a deeper sense of clarity and alignment with our true selves. This process is not always easy or comfortable, but it is through this work that we find the courage to become more authentic and whole. It is through the integration of the shadow that we can truly experience the full depth of who we are and move toward the realization of our highest potential. Individuation is the lifelong process of becoming the person one is inherently meant to be. It involves the integration of all parts of the self-conscious and unconscious into a harmonious whole. The concept suggests that true self-realization can only be achieved when we are fully in touch with both the light and dark aspects of our personality. As we move through life, we often become conditioned to fit into societal roles and expectations. The individuation process helps us break free from these external impositions, allowing us to step into our unique potential and embody who we truly are. The journey of individuation is not an easy one. It requires a deep dive into the unconscious mind, confronting aspects of ourselves that we may have long avoided or repressed. This could involve facing our fears, acknowledging painful emotions, or confronting the shadow aspects of our personality, the parts we don't want to accept. However, it is through the integration of these repressed elements that we move closer to wholeness. Individuation asks us to embrace our entirety, rather than just the aspects of ourselves that are deemed acceptable or desirable by society or our ego. In this process, self-awareness plays a critical role. Without an honest and open awareness of our internal world, it is impossible to discern who we truly are. Most people live their lives governed by unconscious patterns, reactions, behaviors, and beliefs inherited from early life experiences or shaped by external influences. These patterns often define how we interact with the world, yet they do not represent our authentic self. Individuation requires us to step back and observe these patterns without judgment, recognizing that they do not fully capture the depth of who we are. It is a continuous process of unveiling and confronting the inner layers of the self, expanding our awareness with every revelation. This heightened self-awareness leads to the ability to make more conscious choices and take ownership of our growth. Along with self-awareness comes the recognition that growth and change are central to individuation. The process of becoming who we are meant to be demands that we allow ourselves to grow beyond the person we were yesterday. It requires that we remain open to transformation, even when it is uncomfortable or unsettling. Often, growth is accompanied by a sense of loss. We must be willing to let go of outdated identities, beliefs, and attachments that no longer serve our authentic self. These transitions can be painful, but they are necessary for us to evolve. The discomfort of change is the catalyst for deeper understanding and integration. In shedding the old layers, we create space for new possibilities, for a more aligned version of ourselves to emerge. Individuation is also closely tied to the concept of self, which can be understood as the totality of the conscious and unconscious aspects of who we are. The self is not limited to our ego, which is often just a small part of our identity. It is the integrated whole of our personality, including the parts that we may not always recognize or accept. The journey of individuation leads us toward a more complete expression of the self. As we grow and change, we expand our capacity to relate to others, to experience the world in a more meaningful way, and to align with our deeper purpose. This process of self-discovery is ongoing as we continuously integrate new insights, face new challenges, and adapt to new stages of life. A crucial aspect of individuation is the integration of the unconscious mind. Often, much of our personality lies hidden beneath the surface. Our desires, fears, repressed memories, and unresolved emotions. These early experiences create templates or mental frameworks through which we interpret the world. As we grow, these patterns get reinforced, and they begin to dictate how we perceive ourselves and others. For example, if we grow up in an environment where emotional expression is discouraged, we may internalize the belief that showing emotions is a sign of weakness. This belief then manifests in our adulthood, affecting how we connect with others or how we handle stress. The emotional suppression becomes a pattern that we repeat throughout our lives. Often, patterns are formed through repeated experiences. The brain, in its desire to make sense of the world, creates shortcuts, patterns of behavior and thought that help us navigate situations more efficiently. These patterns can be protective mechanisms. For instance, if someone experiences betrayal or disappointment in a close relationship, they may develop a pattern of avoiding intimacy in future relationships to protect themselves from emotional harm. While this may serve as a defense mechanism in the short term, it can also limit their ability to connect authentically with others, creating a cycle of emotional isolation. What makes these patterns so powerful is that they operate largely beneath the surface of our awareness. We may find ourselves repeating the same mistakes, facing similar challenges, or encountering the same type of people in our lives without fully understanding why. It's as if we are stuck in a loop, unable to break free. These patterns can show up in various forms: the tendency to procrastinate, self-sabotage, seek validation from others, or even attract toxic relationships. The more we try to avoid or resist these patterns, the more they persist, often becoming stronger and more entrenched over time. To break free from these life patterns, we must first gain awareness. This requires a willingness to look honestly at ourselves and the behaviors or thoughts we may have been unconsciously repeating for years. Self-awareness is the key to breaking the cycle. When we begin to observe our patterns without judgment, we create the space needed to make conscious choices. For example, if we notice that we always seek approval from others before making decisions, we might begin to question why we need this external validation. Is it a pattern formed from childhood experiences? Is it a result of societal pressure? Understanding the origin of these patterns is essential because it allows us to address the root cause rather than just treating the symptoms. Once we gain awareness, the next step is to actively choose to respond differently. Breaking free from ingrained patterns takes intentional effort and consistent practice. This is where change begins. It is easy to fall back into familiar behaviors because they feel safe or comfortable. However, if we truly want to evolve, we must challenge ourselves to step outside of these old patterns. For instance, if we tend to shut down emotionally during conflict, we can make a conscious decision to open up, express our feelings, and engage in constructive communication instead. This requires vulnerability, but it also holds the potential for deeper, more meaningful connections with others. Patterns in life are not necessarily a body. They are simply expressions of our past conditioning and learned behaviors. Many of our patterns, especially positive ones, have served us well and have helped us navigate life's challenges. But when they become rigid or unconscious, they limit our growth and the possibilities we can explore. By examining our life patterns, we start to see the ways in which they are tied to our beliefs, fears, and desires. These beliefs, whether conscious or unconscious, shape how we interact with the world, what we believe is possible, and what we ultimately create for ourselves. If we have internalized the belief that success is unattainable, for example, we may find ourselves consistently procrastinating or self-sabotaging, not because we lack the ability, but because we are unconsciously reinforcing a pattern that aligns with this belief. Our life patterns also influence how we relate to others. For example, someone who has experienced abandonment may develop a pattern of being overly clingy or needy in relationships, seeking constant reassurance from others out of fear of being left alone. Recognizing this pattern allows the individual to examine the deeper insecurities that drive it and begin working on building healthier ways of connecting with others. When we struggle to accept or love ourselves, we project that insecurity onto others, creating an ongoing cycle of frustration and disconnection. To transform these patterns, we must start by learning to accept and love ourselves more fully. The journey toward breaking free from life patterns is not a linear one. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when old habits resurface. However, the key to transformation lies in persistence and self-compassion. Every time we consciously choose to act differently, we rewire our brains and create new neural pathways that support healthier patterns of behavior. Over time, these new pathways become more ingrained, and the old, limiting patterns lose their grip on us. It is important to recognize that change is possible, and it begins with small, consistent actions. The most profound shifts occur when we take full responsibility for our patterns and stop blaming external circumstances or other people. True freedom comes when we recognize that we have the power to create new patterns, new habits, and new ways of being. This does not mean that we must eliminate all our old patterns or experiences. Rather, it means that we begin to choose consciously which patterns we want to carry forward and which ones we need to let go of. In this way, our life becomes a dynamic process of growth, where we continuously learn from our patterns and use them as stepping stones toward greater self-awareness and authenticity. Ultimately, the recognition of patterns in our lives is not about eliminating them entirely, but about consciously choosing which ones to nurture and which ones to break free from. When we do so, we are not just repeating the same behaviors, we are actively creating new pathways for growth, self-expression, and fulfillment. By recognizing, understanding, and changing our patterns, we gain the freedom to live more fully, authentically, and in alignment with our truest selves. Intuition and inner guidance are often described as the inner wisdom that guides us, helping us make decisions, find clarity, and navigate the uncertainties of life. They are subtle yet powerful forces within us, directing our actions and offering us insights that are not always immediately logical or rational. Intuition transcends the limitations of the conscious mind, offering guidance from deeper layers of the psyche beyond the reach of everyday thoughts and reasoning. It arises from an innate understanding, a knowing that does not require explanation, but simply exists in the body and mind as a quiet pull toward a particular direction or decision. At the core of intuition is the ability to listen beyond the noise of external expectations, fears, and societal pressures. In a world filled with constant distractions and influences, it can be difficult to distinguish between the true voice of our inner self and the demands of the outside world. Yet, when we cultivate the ability to listen to our inner guidance, we tap into a powerful resource that can lead us toward greater clarity and personal fulfillment. Intuition is often described as the gut feeling, a deep sense of knowing that something is right or wrong without having the need for tangible proof. It can manifest as a fleeting thought, a gut instinct, or a sense of peace when we are faced with a difficult decision. Inner guidance, while related to intuition, is often seen as a broader concept. It involves a deeper alignment with our true self, a connection to the wisdom within that emerges when we are in touch with our authentic nature. While intuition can provide us with instant insights or immediate responses, inner guidance is more of a long-term process. It is the steady, often silent voice that helps steer us in the right direction over time, whether that is in relationships, career choices, or personal growth. Inner guidance does not push or force us into anything. Instead, it gently leads us, offering clarity when we need it most and supporting us when we feel uncertain or lost. One of the most profound aspects of intuition and inner guidance is that they are available to everyone. Unlike intellectual knowledge or learned expertise, intuition is an innate part of being human. It is not something that requires specific training or practice, but rather something that is already within us. The challenge often lies in recognizing and trusting it. Too often we dismiss our intuitive insights because they don't fit into the logic-driven framework that society values. We may second-guess ourselves, question our feelings, or ignore our instincts, all because we've been taught to rely more heavily on reason and external validation than on our inner knowing. In doing so, we disconnect from a powerful resource that has the potential to guide us through life's most complex decisions. To reconnect with intuition and inner guidance, it is essential to create space for silence and reflection. In the noise and busyness of modern life, it is easy to become disconnected from our deeper selves. The constant bombardment of information, opinions, and distractions often drowns out the subtle whispers of intuition. Practicing mindfulness, meditation, or simply spending time in nature allows us to quiet the mind and open ourselves to the inner wisdom that resides within. When we are calm and present, we become more attuned to the subtle signals and sensations that our intuition provides. This might come in the form of a strong hunch, a sense of unease, or a sudden moment of clarity when a solution presents itself without explanation. Learning to trust intuition and inner guidance requires a willingness to let go of the need for certainty. Our society often rewards logic, practicality, and the ability to make well-calculated decisions. However, intuition operates in a realm beyond certainty. It is about trusting what feels right even if we cannot fully explain why. It asks us to trust the process, to have faith in our ability to navigate life's uncertainties without needing all the answers up front. This can be daunting, as it requires vulnerability and a deep trust in ourselves. But it is through this trust that we are able to access the deeper layers of wisdom that reside within. Another critical aspect of intuition and inner guidance is that they are not only about personal decisions, they also relate to our connections with others and the world around us. Often, we are guided to take actions that not only serve our individual needs, but also contribute to the well-being of the collective. Intuition can help us navigate relationships, discern the motivations of others, and offer us the insights needed to support and help those around us. It allows us to act with empathy and compassion, understanding not just our own desires, but the needs and feelings of others as well. Intuition also plays a crucial role in personal growth and transformation. It can be the spark that ignites a new chapter in our lives, offering us the courage to step into the unknown or make bold decisions that align with our true purpose. Often, when we are ready to make a change or break free from old patterns, our intuition begins to signal to us that it's time to take action. This may come in the form of a sudden urge to leave a toxic situation, start a new career, or explore a creative passion we've long neglected. While these intuitive nudges may seem irrational at times, they are often the first steps towards significant personal development and growth. As we begin to trust our intuition and inner guidance, we also learn to let go of the fear that often holds us back. Fear of making the wrong choice, fear of failure, or fear of the unknown can all cloud our ability to hear our inner wisdom. By acknowledging our fears and moving forward despite them, we allow intuition to guide us more freely. Over time, we realize that the more we trust this inner guidance, the more it becomes a reliable source of support and insight. The intuitive voice becomes louder and clearer, helping us navigate even the most challenging situations with confidence and clarity. Ultimately, intuition and inner guidance are not just about making decisions. They are about aligning ourselves with the deeper currents of life. When we tune into our inner wisdom, we begin to understand that there is a larger flow guiding us. We become more attuned to the interconnectedness of all things and recognize that our choices are not isolated, but part of a greater web of experiences. As we follow this guidance, we step into a life that feels more aligned, more authentic, and more purposeful. By trusting and embracing our intuition, we move toward a state of inner harmony and balance, where we are no longer driven solely by external forces, but instead guided by the wisdom that lies within. This process of connection with our inner self leads to a profound sense of peace, fulfillment, and direction, as we move forward in alignment with our true essence. Empowerment through separation is a powerful concept that emphasizes the personal growth and strength that can be achieved when we consciously create distance or break away from situations, people, or circumstances that no longer serve us. While the idea of separation often carries negative connotations, such as loss or abandonment, it also has the potential to be a source of profound transformation. In fact, separation can be a vital step towards self-discovery, healing, and ultimately, empowerment. It allows us to disentangle ourselves from unhealthy attachments, toxic relationships, and limiting beliefs that keep us from fully stepping into our potential. When we talk about separation, it is not just about physical distance. It encompasses emotional, mental, and spiritual separation as well. Often we become enmeshed with others, particularly in relationships, to the point where we lose sight of who we are as individuals. We may place the needs of others above our own, or adopt beliefs and behaviors that are not truly ours, but are instead shaped by the expectations of others. In these instances, separation is not about rejecting others, but about reclaiming our sense of self. It is about disentangling our identity from external influences and learning to stand firmly in our own truth. This kind of separation requires courage and a willingness to be uncomfortable, as it often involves letting go of familiar patterns, even if they are harmful or limiting. The process of empowerment through separation begins with the realization that we have the right and the responsibility to take ownership of our lives. We are not bound by the expectations of others, nor are we obligated to stay in situations or relationships that drain us or hinder our growth. The ability to separate ourselves from these influences is an act of self-respect and self-care. It acknowledges that we are worthy of creating a life that reflects our true desires, values, and aspirations. When we choose to separate from what no longer aligns with our authentic self, we open up the space to reconnect with our inner wisdom and purpose. Often, the act of separation involves confronting the fear of loneliness, rejection, or failure. We may fear that if we step away from a relationship, a job, or a situation, we will be abandoned, or that we won't be able to cope on our own. These fears, while valid, are often rooted in the past or in societal conditioning that tells us we must rely on others or external circumstances to feel validated or supported. In reality, empowerment through separation teaches us that our strength lies within ourselves. We do not need to depend on others to feel complete or worthy. By learning to stand on our own, we tap into a wellspring of inner strength and resilience that we may not have known was there. Separation, therefore, becomes not a loss but a gain, a means of reconnecting with our own power. Separation also allows us the opportunity to heal. Many times we remain in unhealthy situations or relationships because we are afraid of the pain that would come from letting go. However, staying in these situations often causes us more harm in the long run. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a dead-end job, or a belief system that no longer serves us, these circumstances can hold us back from moving forward in life. The discomfort of separation, while initially painful, can serve as a catalyst for healing. It gives us the space to process our emotions, address unresolved issues, and rebuild our sense of self. When we separate from what holds us back, we make room for new possibilities, experiences, and opportunities that align more closely with our true nature. Moreover, separation fosters clarity. When we remove ourselves from a situation or relationship, we are often able to gain a new perspective. The emotional attachment we may have had to certain people or circumstances clouds our judgment and makes it difficult to see the situation objectively. By stepping back, we create the necessary distance to reflect on what has been happening in our lives and whether it truly supports our well-being and growth. This clarity is essential for making empowered decisions that lead to long-term happiness and fulfillment. It helps us recognize what we need to let go of and what we need to embrace, enabling us to move forward with confidence and purpose. Empowerment through separation also involves recognizing that we are worthy of peace, joy, and fulfillment. It teaches us to value our own needs and desires and to put them above the approval or validation of others. For many of us, this is a difficult shift to make, as we may have spent years seeking approval from external sources. However, when we separate ourselves from the need for validation, we reclaim our autonomy and our ability to choose what is best for us. This shift is not selfish. Rather, it is an act of self-love. When we prioritize our well-being, we are better able to show up for others, to engage in healthy relationships, and to contribute to the world from a place of authenticity and strength. As we navigate the process of empowerment through separation, we begin to recognize that our worth does not depend on external validation or on staying in situations that drain us. Our true worth is intrinsic and comes from within. When we embrace this truth, we become more resilient in the face of challenges. We are no longer defined by our circumstances or the opinions of others. Instead, we define ourselves by our actions, our values, and our choices. The more we empower ourselves through separation, the more we strengthen our sense of self and our ability to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and confidence. This empowerment is also about trusting the process of letting go. Often, we hold on to things, people, and situations because we fear that if we let go, we will lose something important. However, what we fail to realize is that by holding on to what no longer serves us, we are preventing ourselves from experiencing new growth and opportunities. Separation creates the space for new beginnings, for the unfolding of new possibilities that are in alignment with who we truly are. It is through letting go that we make room for something better to enter our lives. Whether it's new relationships, new opportunities, or new insights, empowerment through separation is about trusting that what lies ahead will serve us better than what we are leaving behind. In the end, empowerment through separation is a process of reclaiming our autonomy, our inner strength, and our authentic self. It is about stepping away from what holds us back, facing our fears, and embracing the discomfort of change in order to create a life that truly reflects who we are. Through this process, we learn to trust ourselves, our decisions, and our capacity to navigate life with courage and resilience. Separation, in this sense, becomes not an end but a beginning, an empowering choice to step into a life of greater freedom, fulfillment, and self-determination.